Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Nerd Soup. My name is Reuben, joined here today with Arlan, and we are back to review A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, Episode 5, In the Name of the Mother. And before we get into today's review, I want to let you guys know that you can listen to this wherever you get your podcasts. You can follow us on social medias at Nerd Soup, at Beau Soup, at Nerd Soup Monkey, and go ahead and check out our Patreon page where we talk about movies, shows, anime, all that good stuff. Yeah, we're just going to jump right into this episode because it is one of the highest rated episodes to ever come out of the Game of Thrones HBO universe, 9.9 on IMDb. And it was a heartbreaking episode with that ending. I think that is a moment, a scene, the performances, the dialogue, everything about it is going to stick in my mind. I've been thinking about this moment since I watched it. It was incredible. Like I said, the performances with Baelor, obviously the moment that he has in episode 4 was so inspiring when he says he's going to fight with Dunk, and then seeing this trial play out, which was also really gnarly. Just all the bodies flying everywhere, all the guts and the gore, the chaos, and then the flashback, getting more information about Dunk and his relationship with Sir Arlan, how that relationship began. I thought the overall structure of the episode worked perfectly to really hit home on those themes. So yeah, no, I'm kind of with the consensus here. I thought it was the best episode of the season. An all-timer. Just an all-time great, not only for Game of Thrones, but just an all-time great episode of television. One of the best I've seen, maybe ever. And yeah, Arlan, excited to hear what you thought about it.
Damn, hard to follow that up. I think we talked about it last week, how like after last week's episode, I think that's one that really takes this show to the next level, where I wasn't really too sure how many people were locked in on this, but while this was airing and the anticipation towards this one, it feels like a lot of Game of Thrones fans have jumped on board. And it's crazy to say. I'm not going to say, like, obviously this isn't a throwaway show, but I think a lot of people had that kind of idea. People who might not be familiar with the source material, you know, I don't know if it was on the top of everyone's watch list, but like when you take these past 2 episodes and throw it into like the listings of Game of Thrones, even the season, like it's up there. I was like playing around like in my own thoughts before bed last night after watching this. I'm like, where would I put this season so far compared to the rest of Game of Thrones? Like maybe it's not season 4 or season 3, but could you say it's like better than half of Game of Thrones?
Yeah, I think you could definitely argue that. I think it's probably the strongest Game of Thrones content since season 4, without a doubt.
It could be. I mean, I can make the argument for 6, but I think 6 definitely ended stronger than the rest of the season. But I think it clears House of the Dragon. Very different shows. Like I was thinking too, like they're going to put this for comedy like they do with The Bear for award season. And I could see it like fucking doing damage in the Emmys. And it's kind of crazy. It's kind of really cool to have another Game of Thrones show that's this fucking good. That's going to win awards, that has people talking, that has the buzz, and like quality wise up there with some of the best seasons of Game of Thrones.
We'll see how episode 6 ends, but so far it's definitely been just a great season of television overall. And I think a lot of people were a bit, I don't know if they were anticipating it to be this good. And House of the Dragon, the ratings have been great, but I think that the second season especially has been more divisive amongst fans. Coming into this, we made the point that this was a narrative that was written as a narrative, and House of the Dragon wasn't. So it was a bit more difficult. And of course, it's never easy to adapt a story. We've seen it many times. Great stories are adapted for the big screen or television, and they suck. But they've just done such a great job really embracing the source material, you know, making cuts when they need to, but also adding some things. Like even, you know, the trial itself here. I haven't read this part in the novel in a long time, but I don't remember Dunk taking quite this type of beating. I feel like it was, you know, he took a couple of hits and then he's able to overwhelm Aryan. But the overall chaos and then the way that they fit in the flashback with Sir Arlan when they jump back into the present with Get Up Dunk was an incredible moment. I feel like that's, you know, there are quite a few moments in this episode that are going to live with me forever, but that one's near the top. I think that was just incredibly inspiring, and especially for the character of Dunk, seeing everything he went through in the past, that trauma of losing his friend, and then almost being in the position that Egg is in the beginning of the show, wandering around following this unknown knight, and seeing how crazy Sir Arlan was, singing in Dothraki and traveling from place to place with nowhere to live, really living like a nomad. And I guess that's the life of a hedge knight. And then getting blasted back into the present, and how just incredibly well executed that trial was. And the choreography was just messy. It wasn't as clean as some of the fights that we've seen previously in Game of Thrones adaptations. And I like that. I think it added an element of realism. At times you could see that they were, they had some bells and whistles, some fun tricks when it came to the combat, but really just getting down in the mud with those characters. And then seeing the way that Arian's able to fight as a swordsman, and he's more skilled than Dunk. But then when it comes to just pure strength and brutality, that's when Dunk gets the upper hand. So it was just, like I said in the beginning, the structure of the episode worked so well for me. And I saw some people criticizing the flashbacks, but to me, I enjoyed them. I don't think that they took away whatsoever from the trial. If anything, it added a lot. The young actors were great too during the flashbacks. Chloe Leia and Bamber Todd, who looks so much like the adult Dunk. That was actually one of the best castings I think I've ever seen. Just in the face, he looks like he would eventually age into Peter Claffey.
Yeah, I think my only, and it's not really a complaint, I just would have liked to see more of what was going on between the other characters. And I think they said in the post show, like, the point was to have it through Dunk's point of view, and obviously it's written in Dunk's point of view, but I think you could have expanded upon that a little bit more, especially with some of the other characters, like the Fossaways, like having, Stefan go to the other side, then having that confrontation during the trial, Maekar and Baelor, and just some of these, the triumphants of these characters fighting for Dunk, and then they're kind of just lost during the battle itself. But like I said, just a small criticism. I think we could have maybe got a little bit more of that, and also too with Darian, because there was 2 accusations brought against Dunk, and we heard Darian say that he was going to lay down, but just seeing that. So when it all comes to a head, that's the final thing they needed, was for Arian to withdraw his accusation. If I'm going to nitpick, maybe that, but seeing Dunk, like you said, we get lost sometimes with movies and television, just how grueling it is. Even just a fist fight, just how much that takes out of you. But we always see when displayed in cinema, it goes on for what seems like hours and no one ever gets tired. Here, right away, they are lumbering. They're in the mud. Have this heavy armor that you can't see out of. You're swinging this giant greatsword around. It's fucking tiring. That shot from his point of view outside that little slit in the helmet, where you really just you can't see anything. And it happens so quick right away. He's just not, I don't want to say he's not built for it, because he ultimately won, but I don't think he really knew what he was getting himself into. Not the best jouster, as we know, but right away, just getting one right in the belly and then clubbed by a mace. No peripheral vision. You're kind of just stuck in that moment, and rising up, having Egg in the crowd cheering him to get up, having Arlan scream in his face and waking him up, and just, like he said, using his brute strength, that flea bottom background. I had no master at arms growing up. This is how we fight down in the bottom.
Yeah, Dunk was a fucking legend. That's what they don't understand. Arian's got all the training with the swordsmanship, but when it comes to getting down and dirty in the mud, and that was a great contrast between their upbringings. And the beginning of the trial, he gets knocked off his ass. He gets knocked onto his ass right away. And there were so many moments throughout the trial, and knowing in the back of my mind that Dunk was going to win and drag Arian and force him to have that confession, where I thought he was toast, especially the one shot where his eyes are open and it's like it doesn't even look like he's unconscious. He straight up looks like he's dead. I think that's what Arian yells to the crowd, to the guy with the horn. He's like, yo, he's dead. I killed him. But that was cool too. Arian's been such an unlikable character so far, but you always win some points when you're able to fight. It was the same thing with Jaime Lannister. He was a prick from that very first episode, but when you see him scrap, you respect him. Although they gave Ned that power boost, so it's like we never really got to see Prime Jaime, but the way they talked about him kind of made you respect him. And then, when Dunk does get the upper hand, it's such an inspiring moment, and dragging him by the foot and forcing that confession.
When Jaime puts that dagger through Jory's eye and stares at Ned, we don't talk about that enough.
Yo, rest in peace, Jory. I forgot about him. Yeah, and then also the first scene jumping right into the aftermath of that moment with Baelor, where he's coaching them up, and you see Dunk and Raymond are throwing up, and one of the knights makes fun of them about being green boys. But that line that Lionel has ends up being so important, where you were your mother's favorite. And then we see the way that Maekar fights, where it is more about brute strength, a bit more reckless. He's swinging it around and he accidentally knocks over his brother. I think I enjoyed the way that they didn't focus on the other characters, because I feel like you can go back, go frame by frame, and based on, the sigil and the armor, who's doing what, you could be like, oh, that was cool that Raymond was the one who knocked off Arian when he was on top of Dunk, so that was a great assist, even though he doesn't have that same experience. It ends up being a key moment for Dunk's victory. And same thing, the moment where Baelor does suffer that fatal blow, it's blink and you miss it.
Right. And it's like, I don't know, we were shitting on how Jon never wore a helmet in any of his battles.
Yeah, right.
And it's like, I kind of wish I didn't have helmets on. I don't know who the fuck anyone is in the background.
Right, and that's why I think it, in the end, when Baelor is standing up and he basically saves Dunk's life a second time when he tells Pate, don't put oil on it, put wine. The oil will kill him. And then he accepts Dunk in his service, and he has that great line, I need good men. And then he compliments his brother, saying, yeah, he's strong. I'm getting chills just thinking about these lines of dialogue. I feel like if they would have focused more, like if they honed in on when he suffers that blow, you're going to be like, oh shit, he might die.
Yeah.
But it comes as a shock, I think, for a lot of people when he takes off the helmet and you see the back of his head he's missing a chunk, and that realization sets in that he's not going to survive this. It's incredibly tragic. And the fact that even in his last moments, he's strong enough to still stand up, to accept Dunk in his service, and express love for the man, for his brother who killed him, it's just incredibly bittersweet. And a lot of people were saying that George was inspired. The character of Baelor was inspired by JFK, and that, as a young boy growing up and witnessing that assassination, it traumatized him a bit. That someone who came into power, who was different from the status quo, who was promising change, gave a lot of people hope, and then he dies tragically at such a young age. So, yeah, I think for a lot of people, they were anticipating some deaths, but I don't know if many people thought Baelor wouldn't make it out of this episode.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, because I knew it was coming. I remember reading it and just being like, damn. Like, just having... They say, like, if you wear a helmet and you get a head trauma, then, like, you're not supposed to take your helmet off or something. So, lesson to be learned there.
Well, I mean, the performances from all those characters there, too. Like, when he says, my visor got chipped, and Raymond realizes he's totally out of it. He doesn't have a visor. Why would he say that? Because his vision is being blurred because he's dying. And when the realization sets in on Raymond's face, it's so sad as well. And especially for Dunk, him begging to be in his service and then pleading with him not to die. It's like he's experiencing what happened with Arlan all over again. But this one is even worse, because he's someone who didn't have to do this. And you imagine he's going to feel extremely guilty over Baelor's death. But Baelor steps up and he defends this man because he's innocent, and he loses his life over it. So for Dunk, it's just, it's tragic for Baelor and his family, but for Dunk, it's extremely tragic as well.
Yeah, he just got a promotion too. Bad timing.
After he's done crying, he turns to...
You guys heard that, right?
I'm still hired, right? I still got the job. How does that work? Do I get passed over to Makor now?
Even Makor, like that moment, like small moment, but when he gets like during the battle, when he goes to run over to his son, it's as great as Baelor is and how like stubborn Makor seems and how shitty Arian is. You kind of lump them together, but I mean, that's just the genuine moment of like, even in this battle, him trying to get over to protect his son. Just like a very honorable move. And like you said, the guilt Dunk must feel, but I'm really interested to see how they play that out with Makor. Like the guilt of obviously unintentional during a melee, shit happens, and his intention probably wasn't to kill his brother, but the fact is that he did, and wondering how he deals with that realization and that grief going forward.
Yeah, and for Makor, that line by Lionel, growing up in your brother's shadow, he's beloved by everyone in your immediate circle. He's more charismatic, more charming, and in the larger world, he is considered the person who's best set up to be a king since Aegon the Conqueror. So you've been living in your brother's shadow all of these years, and then you're the one who accidentally kills him. And he's a character that I think a lot of people have enjoyed for how grumpy and irritable he is. That moment when he is rushing to his son and he lets out the "my boy," it really humanizes him and shows that he is someone who cares about his son, even if Arian is a little prick. And we saw that in Game of Thrones. It kind of reminds me of the relationship Cersei Cersei had with her children, even though Cersei objectively was way worse as a human being. But it's that thing that's able to humanize some of these adults that have lost some of that spark when their children are in danger. They take on that role of protector. And in this case, he ends up, rushing to his son and killing his brother. So very Shakespearean. I remember reading it and enjoying it for the first time, but seeing it play out like this, I was like, man, this really is just some of his best work.
Yeah, it really is. And it's, we've talked about it, just the foundational pieces of the story is just Dunk and Egg and their relationship and how we view them as a viewer or a reader. And they just continue to be just the easiest people to root for probably in this whole series. It's a nice breath of fresh air where we're always dealing with these morally gray characters, but for them, it's very simple. You root for them because they're good people. And I think we further cemented out with Dunk and the flashback and just seeing where he come from, adding that extra layer of who he is as a character.
Yeah, and I think the relationship with Rafe, of course, you see why he was so quick to defend Tonsil.
Yeah, it probably reminded him, and just the tragedy of his background, the thing about his mother, him still waiting for his mother to come back. And seeing Rafe die in front of him, seeing Tonsil in distress, I mean, from retrospect, adds just a lot from probably how he felt at that moment. Oh no, it's happening again, where people in power are abusing those who don't have a voice, and taking him back. Now that we know, that probably took him back to that moment in the alley when those gold cloaks are abusing their power. And if it wasn't for Sir Arlan coming out 2v1, oh man. That boy was moving.
He smoked the fuck out of that one guy, dude. He chopped his head clean off. And the way he came out, too, it was, they portray Sir Arlan as a messy individual. So that he bursts out, he's drunk off of his ass, but he doesn't hesitate to defend this young boy that he doesn't know. And when the fight is over, he simply moves on with his life. So it says so much about his character. And just in that moment, we learn so much about the man he is. He's willing to fight for the innocent. And in many respects, even though when we see him training, he's not as smooth with the sword as some of these other knights. But it's about what you stand for and what you're willing to fight for. And in that moment, him bursting out of that door and in the name of the mother, leave that boy alone. Just an incredibly inspiring moment. And it's what, leads Dunk to following him around and eventually forming that relationship that becomes basically father and son.
I'm going to start using that. But if someone's just getting abused on the court, the mother, leave that boy alone.
When Jalen Bronson has a sick crossover.
Yeah.
Clyde Frazier needs to break that out.
When Baylor says, they have 3 Kingsguard and they're sworn to protect me, so I'll take care of them. It's I feel bad for the Kingsguard sometimes. They're just in a pickle. Who do you listen to? Well, I got to protect these. There's 3 princes back here. I got to protect another prince. It's when Jaime said, when Aerys, everyone calls him Kingslayer for betraying his oath to Aerys. He's well, my oath also says I have to protect the weak, so what am I supposed to do when the king I'm sworn to protect is going to kill the innocent? They're probably just what am I supposed to do? I'm in a real pickle here.
Yeah, medieval laws make absolutely no sense. And they all seem like such smart and reasonable people, but the law is the law, I guess. And when one of the knights asks him, I think it's Riesling, says, "Is that honorable, sir?" And Baelor's well, we will find out. So Baelor, it's not only that he's a good guy, but he's also smart. He understands that he can use this to his advantage. And even though it isn't the most honorable, and he does get some side eyes. And even from one of the clips, looking ahead to episode 6, it looks like Lionel isn't quick to, Lionel's grief didn't last that long. He's quick to get over it and criticize the actions of Baelor. So that's going to be interesting to see that play out. But yeah, no, it's tough for the Kingsguard. I guess the way they deal with it is killing those 2 knights right away. We're leaving here with something.
You know what's hilarious? And I completely forgot about this, but I was just reading some wikis last night. Lionel's supposed to be just as tall as Dunk. Picturing just a guy the size of the mountain acting like he does.
Yeah, that would have been fun. Just if he was taller, that relationship would be even better. Yeah, but dude, I mean, fucking Bertie Carvel as Prince Baelor. I mean, he's been so great this entire season, but those final moments when he's still so dignified, where he's still in those dying moments, you're still impressed by what he's saying, the way that he's conducting himself. He's missing half of his fucking skull, and he still comes off as kingly. God, it's just gonna leave a mark on me for the rest of my life. It's like losing Ned, losing Rob. Of course, they were absolutely devastating, but the way that he dies is it sucks. It just fucking sucks, man, because he was the one.
Just coming to Ashford to like have a good time,
I know.
And now their like whole lives, like everything's ruined.
No, this is an event that it changes the course of history because of this fucking hedge knight. No, yeah, it ends like you said. It just a fun tournament. Baelor's thinking, okay, we're gonna show up. We're not going to stab any horses during the jousting. There isn't going to be any trials of the seven. It's going to be real smooth, real clean. Go get in, get out, and it ends up just all going to shit. I'll tell you what, dude. When Dunk does get up, when the horn is about to blow, it was like watching somebody be resurrected from the fucking dead. He stands up like a zombie, where he's barely keeping his footing. He holds up the sword, and he's just able to find that last bit of strength to overcome Aryan. It was like watching a man be resurrected by his past.
Well, even the sound design, like the muffled noise and the ringing.
Oh, yeah.
I know his head was bumping.
Oh, yeah, dude. That motherfucker, he took off his helmet, had a giant cartoon bump, like the Jawbreakers in Ed, Edd and Eddy.
Yeah, like 3 teeth left in his mouth pointing all different ways. Birds flying around his head.
When he got cut in the eye and it started bleeding in his visor, I was like, ugh. I was like, damn, yo, did he just get blinded? I was like, did I forget that Unk? That's funny. Dunk the Unk. I was like, did I forget that Dunk loses an eye in this battle? Yeah, and Egg too. Him watching it and pleading with him to get up, and when he belts out the weight, even though he's not fighting, he ends up being crucial to Dunk's victory here. Just giving him those extra seconds, making sure that horn doesn't blow. And I thought that interaction before the fight starts, I thought that back and forth they had when they sort of make up, it almost felt like Dunk accepting Egg's apology. Even Dunk isn't able to smile during that interaction because he's scared. And I think that was something that really makes this a great moment for the character, is that he's not coming into it with overwhelming confidence because he's big, because he's strong, because he's on the right side of this argument or accusation, but he's truly afraid for his life, and we immediately see why he's scared.
Yeah, no, it's not fun. I mean, that just didn't seem like a good time at all. But it was satisfying to see Aryan just get his fucking teeth punched in and then just dragged to the dais.
Yeah, Finn Bennett, he's been great as his character, being a cocky son of a bitch. And the lights were too bright for him in that moment.
It is fun. If you watch his like post interviews, it is funny like the way he talks about the character. Because like you would think like he wrote it.
Oh, yeah, no, he really loves this character.
Yeah. So, yeah, I really just wanted Aryan, and he'll just describe what was written in the script.
Yeah, he thinks he's him. He thinks he's him, and he thinks he's George, actually.
No, but when he does bring a lot to the character, like, and his ideas of the character are actually really cool. But, like, some of the things he says, and, like, that you had to do that. That was written in.
Yeah, it's like Frank Oz playing Yoda. It's like, yeah, I really wanted to play him as a little green puppet. Like, oh yeah, no, that's the character, Frank. He's a little green puppet. Yeah, that's how I played him.
It's like, yeah, I wanted Aryan to be like fast compared to Dunk and quick. I'm like pretty sure that's like always was going to be the case, but
yeah, that was great too, man. I mean, the cuts, the punches, everything about it was just absolutely.
He got his ass beat. Like,
no, he did. Yeah,
like everyone thought he was going to be nice. It's like Anthony Richardson. It's like, yeah, we got to draft that guy. Look at him. He's going to be a good quarterback. It's like with Dunk, it's like, he'll be all right. It's like, maybe not.
Yeah, and it was funny seeing in the closed captions that Sir Arlan was singing that Dothraki song, and they put out what the actual translation is. But it adds so much to the lore of that character. Why does he know that? Did he spend some time with the Dothraki, or Did somebody teach it to him? So he's obviously an older character, so I'm sure he's got incredible stories to tell, but it just adds a lot to the character by not doing that much. Just him singing in Dothraki just opens up so many different avenues that you can go. And also seeing, the aftermath of Daemon's rebellion. The first Blackfire rebellion, the way that things have changed and what people have lost, when they're trying to steal from the highborn in the beginning, that, for the poor, it doesn't really matter who won, who lost. It's about, can I steal enough silver to escape? Looking out for your own safety and well-being. And the sentiment that a lot of the small folk have towards the Targaryen family, that there's not a lot of love lost. And in fact, a lot of them just despise the ruling family.
No, I was just saying, I've always had a profound respect for the King's Landing transit system. But, surge pricing in this economy? Read the room, guys.
Look at the way that the seas have really opened up, man. There's no more traffic anymore. And a lot of those people were coming from Jersey anyway, so who gives a fuck? And I think that's something that I hope they continue to explore. I think Ira Parker said that they are going to in future seasons. Did you see that rumor about Henry Cavill playing Daemon Blackfire?
Yeah, I think
not even
dispelled,
a rumor,
but
yeah.
Egg
saying it at an interview during Comic-Con, or the actor who plays Egg. People have a lot of weird, I'm not Henry Cavill's biggest fan, but I think the overreaction to that news was kind of strange. But yeah, I hope that's something that they continue to do. Not only the rebellion itself, but the aftermath is something I really enjoyed. The impact that this war has had on Westeros.
Yeah, I think it's something they could explore even. We'll get more with the Blackfires throughout the Dunk and Egg saga, but I think it's something they can explore in other ventures as well. And honestly, I don't know if we talked about this on the podcast, but I think that's your best. But actually, no, I was thinking about it too last night, and it's actually a terrible idea. But I think it's an avenue you could explore with the possible Game of Thrones sequel with Aegon, young Griff. That whole storyline they cut out of the show, I think they could mess around with that and kind of adapt it for into a story that could be worthy of a sequel.
I can't believe D&D had this fucking source material and they couldn't think of something better.
Well, Old Man Rivers wasn't really. We still don't got it. Still don't got Winds of Winter in my hands.
Well, what about never mind. We'll just talk about that when this is over. Yeah, overall, the episode was pretty great, and I think those final moments are going to live forever when it comes to Game of Thrones adaptations. Just some great acting, great writing, everything about it was pretty incredible. And Bertie Carvel, dude, one of the best performances I think that we've seen in any Song of Ice and Fire adaptation. Talk about bringing this character to life. He just, you just love him, I wish he could run for president.
Yeah, the greatest king that ever was. I would have voted for him. Let Bay leave her, That's his campaign slogan.
That's good.
Bay leave.
I'm with Bay. Yeah, so that's where we will end this review. Looking forward to episode 6. And in typical Game of Thrones tradition, this felt like penultimate big explosive episode, and then we get a nice epilogue in episode 6. And even the trailer had me so excited, where Makar's like, my son wants to be your squire. And he's like, I'm done with princes. So there's a lot left to resolve between these characters, specifically Dunk and Egg, our two main characters. So looking forward to that. All right, guys, we will see you next week for episode 6. Aaron, thanks for joining me. As always.
No problem.
Yeah. Sometimes I think about this universe and I have to remind myself it's not real. It begins to blend with real history for me.
Yeah, the rabbit holes I go down on the Song of Ice and Fire wiki. I got it. Last night started with Dunk and Egg, and I was just like, I need to learn more about Aegor Rivers.